Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Carrie.
And we're Escaping the Empty Nest.
Hey there. One thing we wanted to share when we got back from our New York trip was our experience of navigating the subway system as first-timers. Granted, we did a lot of research before going, but how much did that research help? And was there anything that surprised us once we got there?
Here's a list of 5 things that we didn't see in any of the helpful videos we'll mention later. This isn't meant to replace those videos, just give a little extra information from the perspective of a first-timer.
The first one is that in peak times, walk to the front or the back to get a seat. Middle cars near the entrance can get so crowded there's barely room to stand, but the cars on the ends can be half empty.
Number 2, some subway stops have multiple exits, so be familiar with the intersection you are heading to. On the line closest to our hotel, there was a subway exit at 27th Street, even though the main entry and exit was at 28th Street. We knew if we were heading downtown on the 1, we could sit in the front of the car and then be right next to the 27th Street exit and be 1 block closer to our hotel. That came in handy when we knew it was going to be raining.
The third thing was the hardest part of riding the subway was exiting the station and being a little bit disoriented on which direction to go after that. Mark used a mapping program. He looked at street signs and landmarks and figured out which way we needed to go before we started walking. Just because you know you're at a certain intersection, that doesn't mean you know which way to start walking. A few times on our trip, we would start walking one direction, realize we were headed the wrong way, and had to turn around and go back. I wish at each subway exit they would have had a sign or a symbol of some sort that pointed north. That would have been very helpful.
One big surprise was the internet signal was actually very good for being underground. We used our Verizon 4G LTE network most of the time, but also the subways had Wi-Fi, though it went in and out occasionally as well. You could stay connected most of the times without issue.
Lastly, some subway stations have electronic message boards that keep you updated on when the next train is coming, and some don't. In those cases, you can use the My MTA app or Google Maps to let you know when the next train is due for arrival. As far as the trains themselves, there seems to be a huge disparity between the level of technology on the trains.
Some have nice electronic signs to let you know which borough you're in and what the next several stops are, and some just have a small static display that only tells you the order of stops on that line. And if you aren't right next to it, there's no way you can see it.
The most primitive lines seem to be 1, 2, and 3 trains. So if you're riding on any of those, before you get on, have a very good idea of the name of the stop that you need to get off at, and maybe even what the name of the stop before that is. You'll have to watch out the window because every subway stop is very clearly marked in dozens of places.
The most helpful advice we got from a couple of YouTube videos was them pointing out that the subway stations are on the same side of the street as traffic. In other words, if you're walking on the right side of the road heading uptown, the entrance for the train station that will go uptown will be on your side of the street. If you're walking uptown just to catch a subway going downtown, you're going to have to cross the street.
If that didn't click with you, here's an amazing resource the first-time visitor to New York needs to check out. Thea from Urban Caffeine put out a 15-minute video that masterfully breaks down the nuts and bolts of navigating the subway, understanding the signage, the difference between express trains and local trains, and even has a nice graphic explaining what Mark was trying to describe about the subways always following the right side of the street.
I was going to make a graphic, but I figured she did such an amazing job, I would just encourage people to check out her video, which I'll link in the description below. And while you're there, check out the rest of her amazing videos, which are just as helpful. I really liked the one where she broke down the bus system into an easy-to-digest format. It took a lot of the intimidation out of it.
We thought about making a video on the bus system, but Thea already covered it very well. Needless to say, she and John Barr from herebybar were the main resources for us planning this trip. I really liked being able to use the app or texting to find out how long the next bus would take to get to our stop. For east-west travel, the bus is just about your only option other than walking or hiring an expensive cab.
One exception to that was when we actually took a line uptown for a bit just to transfer to a line that went diagonally downtown. At that point in the trip, our feet were tired, and even if it wasn't the fastest way, it did involve the least amount of walking.
We hope this video from the perspective of the first-timer has helped you. I'm not going to say we mastered the system right away, but for two people from Texas that don't deal with public transportation very often, it wasn't that hard to figure out right away, and it made a huge city a lot more accessible and less intimidating.
If you like this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. It really does help the channel out. Remember to never stop having adventures with your spouse. Thanks for watching, and
Bye for now.